So they just confirmed we left over $7 billion of military equipment in Afghanistan. So we've already we gave the Afghans.
Wait, 7 or 7D?
7 billion.
7 billion.
7 with a B, 7 billion. So we gave the Taliban, our enemy, so far more military equipment than we gave the Ukrainians. Okay. Now, up until last week, they may still be doing this, I don't know, but up until last week, the Biden administration was actually negotiating with the Taliban to release to them $7 billion in cash. So we were planning on handing over to our enemy a total of $14 billion. And last week, on the week of the anniversary, the week of the most humiliating activity in the United States since the bombing of Pearl Harbor, on that week, the administration proudly announced that they had just dedicated $30 million in foreign aid to Afghanistan for women and gender issues. Now, we have a zero presence in Afghanistan, which means that $30 million, you give that to some international organization who also has zero footprint in Afghanistan, and you throw that money into the country out of a helicopter, you have no idea where that money is going, what it's going for. There's no accountability, no transparency whatsoever, and you know it's all going to wind up in the hands of the Taliban. So if you think this administration has learned from its mistakes, I have 14 billion, 300 million reasons to tell you that you are but wrong.
I just want to ask a blunt question here. How much of an effect, if Russian operatives were advising Vladimir Putin, should we go into Ukraine again or try to build the land bridge? Yes, no, maybe, we don't know. This is a new administration. How much of an effect on their decision making do you think the Afghanistan withdrawal had on their advice or Putin's decision to further his cause in Ukraine?
Well, I think there are three things going on in the world today that may actually not have been news, but confirmed to our enemies exactly what they already believed, which was these guys were going to come in. They were all the old Obama people, and they were going to do stuff exactly the way the old Obama people did. And they were right. So I believe when they write the history, it will show that Afghanistan confirmed to Putin that the Yahoos are back and that he could get away with invading Ukraine. And look, he would have gotten away with it, except the Ukrainians defended themselves. Otherwise, Biden would have just blinked and laughed like he did in that press conference. I also believe that China could be incredibly aggressive and conduct these military drills, knowing that Biden would do nothing, which they did. And I also believe that the Iranians have gotten this unbelievable Iran deal that the U.S. is getting ready to sign, where, by the way, the Iranians will profit from this. They will get, by credible estimates, $1 trillion. I feel like a character in that spy movie. So the three biggest body blows to U.S. foreign policy in the last 2 years, I believe, are all that those enemies felt unconstrained because they saw Afghanistan as proof that Biden is weak, and I can't argue with them.
Just give me your perspective as a veteran here. What is the optics of our equipment? We saw Taliban soldiers walking around in U.S. uniforms, body armor, Kevlars, night vision, carrying M4s, using our up-armored vehicles, our Humvees. What's the optic for you and for veterans to see the repression of people, especially women and girls, don't tell Kamala Harris that, using our equipment, wearing American uniforms, pointing American rifles at people as they oppress them? What is the optic for you?
Well, as a military guy, and I was in the military for 25 years, we don't get emotional about this stuff, because we have to deal with life and death and reality. And, the ancient Chinese military philosopher said, know yourself and know your enemy. That's how you win every battle. And so we really focus on what does our enemy take away from this? And remember, the Taliban come from a part of the world where honor does not mean you're a nice person and you pay your taxes or you don't beat your wife. Honor means you're powerful and you can humiliate your enemies. So for them to be able to walk around in our uniforms with our equipment, to them, They have embarrassed and humiliated the United States, and that means America is weak. So if you wonder why the Taliban would host the head of al-Qaeda, the most wanted terrorist in the world, in their capital, virtually in the open, in a house owned by the Haqqani network, which were the people that brought al-Qaeda to Afghanistan to begin with, these are people who have no fear of Joe Biden. And that's the last thing you want. You want your enemies, these enemies, which are really brutal barbarians from the Middle Ages, the number one thing you want from them is to fear you. And the one thing that nobody in this world does is fear Joe Biden, except unless you're a taxpayer. If you're a taxpayer, you are deeply afraid.
You know, in a couple of days, I'll be playing right around August 27th or 29th. One of the mothers of one of the 13 service personnel that lost his life in the pullout, Riley McCullum, his mother called my radio program completely unannounced. She was not a booked guest. And she just vented that she felt her son died for nothing. And for days, I was taking calls from Afghan veterans who are like, we were there for 20 years. We left it all. We left it all. We gave it everything. We left, a sports metaphor, we left it all on the field. And this is how it ended. I mean, if that's not going to cause a greater increase in PTSD, I don't know what will.
Yeah, again, I was in the military, and I was also a military historian. And look, when you're in the military, you don't expect a fair deal. You expect people to die needlessly, and you expect to see your best friend dead, and to be sent in a battle at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and see people killed. You know why? Because that's what happens in war. Sometimes there are mistakes. Sometimes you're led by idiots. But you put that uniform on, and you know that at the front end. They tell you that. When I went to West Point, they tell you this. You are wearing your uniform to honor and serve your country, and some days you are going to get screwed.